What's up, you guys? Welcome to the video. Got a good one for you today, but before we get into the topic of this video, I just want to say one quick announcement. If you saw on my Instagram, the Rainbow Candy pre-workout by Beam is live, so you can go check that out, and you can use code MADOAK, which is Maddie's discount code, to save 20%, which is pretty much the biggest code you'll find anywhere on the internet. So this is my favorite pre-workout. If you want to know my honest opinion, the Sour Blue Gummy is also super good. I don't know which one is better, but I've been using this one for like months now. And they also have a watermelon one, which is also super good. But yeah, all of them really good. Save 20% on what I would say is like my favorite pre-workout ever, honestly. So now to the video. All right, what's up, you guys? So we are going to get into the topic of this video, which is all about reps, why reps may not be as important as you think. Also, why tracking your reps in the gym might be pretty pointless when it comes to building muscle, and ultimately why volume should be measured by sets, not reps. All right, guys, so by the end of this video, you're gonna be able to really nail down your programming and kind of incorporate some more advanced programming techniques into your program so you can grow better, grow optimally. That's what we're all about. So as a coach with Team Tua, I'm all about just optimizing people's programs to get the most out of your training. And that's kind of like my specialty. Within my degree of exercise physiology, I actually specialize within program design and prescription. So I'm gonna dive into some solid training philosophies here that I hope you can add into your program, and basically go over 3 things that you need to know about reps that might change your perspective on your training for hypertrophy. So let's get into this. So one thing I want to bring up is training logs. I know a lot of guys, including guys I coach, they like to have training logs where they go into the gym, they actually write down their reps and their sets and things like that. And actually, this is an old training log of mine, where as you can see, I actually have every day and how many sets I did per muscle group, and totaled it out for the week, everything like that. So training logs can be really good, but I'm gonna say right now, training logs can also distract you from what is actually important when it comes to muscle building. So let me explain a little bit more in detail, but basically volume is a crucial element to building muscle. Now, when we look at what actually builds muscle, we know that there is pretty much just one way that muscle is built, and it's through mechanical tension. Mechanical tension is a balance between volume and intensity. So volume and intensity are those 2 most important variables when it comes to building muscle. This is kind of like the quick 101 version on it, but we're definitely going to talk about intensity here in a little bit, but volume is how much workload you do. And I think historically a lot of guys use reps in order to measure that. You'll hear guys do 1,000 rep arm workouts or whatever it may be. You know, when you think about volume, a lot of guys think about how many reps they're doing, but there's a reason why that is wrong. And instead, you should be measuring your volume via hard working sets per week. And the reason why that is actually because of intensity. So now we're gonna flop back to intensity here for a second. Intensity is essentially effort. You know, how much effort you are putting towards your set. Now, an all-out effort would essentially be like a 100% rate of perceived exertion. You cannot exert any more energy because you did as many reps as you could until muscular failure. So that is an all-out effort, right? Knowing that actually means that we can, you know, quantify intensity by essentially your proximity to failure. So the closer to muscular failure during a set you get, the more intense that set becomes. Now, we know that the more intense the set becomes, the more anabolic that set is. So the closer you get to failure, the more anabolic. Now, this is important because effort can change, because effort is essentially a perceived exertion. So let's say one week you are benching 225, you get it for 10 reps. That next week, the typical bro method would be to try to go for maybe 11 reps, thus you progressively overloaded, right? Well, that's not totally true, because perceived exertion is what effort is. And let's say that following week, maybe you had, you know, worse sleep. Maybe you have more stressors in your life. Maybe you're slightly more sore. Maybe you took less pre-workout. You know, maybe you listened to a different song that didn't hype you up as much, or whatever it might be. And maybe let's say you only get 8 reps instead of 10 reps. Does that mean that you did not progress? The truth is, you're probably fine. Just because you didn't get more reps did not mean you did not progress anymore, because you could have potentially put in the same amount of effort on that 8 reps as you did the week prior for that 10 reps. Which means that when it comes to the reps, it doesn't really matter, because it's all about that perceived exertion. And as long as that perceived exertion is high enough, or a good enough of effort was used to begin with, then it's going to be just as anabolic either way. Now, there is still a way to progress, because we do need to increase the workload over time to have progressive overload take place. That is when sets come in handy, because hey, maybe you did less reps, but you could still progressively overload by potentially adding more sets. So at the end of the day, maybe you went to a different gym or used a different type of workout equipment, or you're having an off day, or you're more tired, or whatever it may be. There's so many variables at play here that the number of reps you do is quite arbitrary and not actually that important. What does matter is that you are doing that set really hard, and that over time you're gradually increasing volume by potentially increasing the amount of hard working sets regardless of how many reps you're doing. So that's number one. Now we're gonna get into number two and number three, which actually really support number one. But number two is that we know through extensive research, we're talking literally a lot of research here, that the same amount of gains are made between different types of rep schemes. So traditionally we used to have like that 10 to 12 rep scheme where that was the muscle building rep range. And not that that's untrue, because that's a great rep range to be around, but that's actually not the only rep range that builds muscle. We actually from research know that between 5 and 40 reps is the hypertrophy rep range. It could be more for all we know. Research hasn't quite clarified that yet, but we know it's pretty big. Now the kicker here, the important thing, is that intensity is equated in every single set. So that means your set of 6 reps and your set of 36 reps could be equally as anabolic as long as the intensity is the same. And once again, intensity we're gonna measure by your proximity to failure. So if you go to failure on 6 reps of bicep curls versus failure of 36 reps of bicep curls, we know that they are equally as anabolic because the intensity is the same. Obviously there's gonna be a weight difference, which once again doesn't really matter for muscle building because it's all just intensity and volume. But here we see that the reps just don't matter. It doesn't matter if you do 6 reps or 36 reps. Traditionally a gym bro might say that the 36 reps is way more volume, but is it actually? Because they're just as anabolic. Now what would be more anabolic or way more volume would be if you did, maybe 6 sets of hard bicep curls instead of 3 sets of hard bicep curls. Then it would be progressive overload, it would be more anabolic, and it would actually be more volume. So yet another reason why reps just don't really matter. And number 3, the reason why reps shouldn't matter is because it distracts from what actually builds muscle. This will kind of bring it all together here, but if you're so focused on trying to get 1 extra rep than you did last week, this is what's gonna happen. So let's say you're squatting 315 last week, you got 6 reps. This week you gotta get 7 reps, otherwise you're a big failure, right? So in order to get that 7 reps, you're going to basically cheat. You're gonna go a little bit higher on your squat. Maybe you're gonna go a little bit faster pace and not feel it in your muscles as much. So you essentially might find ways to cheat the reps in order to accomplish that arbitrary number of 7 that you think you have to get. Muscle is built through mechanical tension. I'm gonna say it again. And a part of mechanical tension means good technique, good mind-muscle connection, good range of motion. You need all of those. So it's a lot better to think of every rep individually and making that 1 rep perfect than simply thinking of just hitting this arbitrary number of reps during that set. Otherwise, you failed, you didn't progressively overload. If we're so focused on reps, we're so focused on just hitting that number no matter what, that we're forgetting about the range of motion. We're forgetting about the mind-muscle connection, about the tempo, the pacing, the controlling of the muscle, and you start to just focus on the wrong things. Yes, you'll probably grow, but will you optimize your training that way? I would say no. So at the end of the day, if you really do want a training log, I think you should do it the way that I've done it in the past, which is literally, if you can see, writing down how many sets you've done that muscle group. And here's a quick little tip too. You don't want to just mindlessly add more sets because more isn't always better. But to a standard, yeah, more is a little bit better. So what you should do is pick a lower amount of volume, start hitting that for a few weeks at a high intensity, and then slowly incorporate maybe 2 extra sets per muscle group per week until you top off to, past an optimal amount of volume, because it really is a bell curve. More is less and less is less, but there is a middle ground there that you want to be in. And now when you start to focus on the right things, like how many hard working sets you're doing, making sure that each rep is perfect, regardless of how many reps you do, then you start to actually see the best results of your entire life. And with that, just one little tip, just to kind of reiterate this fact, but the weight that you're using also just doesn't really matter. You're not gonna grow more with 140 pounds on bench than 135 pounds on bench, because once again, it all just matters is that intensity, taking it to near failure, regardless of how many reps you do. So yeah, guys, this is really important. I think we need to bust some myths here, and hopefully this video has helped you. If it has, like this video, share it with your boys who need to grow as well. And yeah, I just really hope that this helped you guys out. Coaching inquiries, you can always go down below in the description. And as usual, we will see you in that next video. Peace out.